welcome to the Holistic Veterans Wellness, a creative container of really connecting with veterans that are out there that are in the mind, body, and spirit business. I'm really, really passionate about this. And I served in the military for 20 years, and I got brought up in the military where holistic remedies were not really big. So I'm really passionate about it. And one topic that I have not talked about yet was plant medicine. So I'm really excited. Michaela Eggers is here to talk about plant medicine. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Good morning. Thank you for having me. And similar to you, that just incredibly passionate about sharing the good news on plant medicine. So I appreciate this opportunity to be here and to talk to a community that is also near and dear to my heart. I am also a veteran that spent 7 years in the Air Force. I came in '01 and stayed in for 7 years. I was a public affairs officer and bounced around, spent some time in Colorado, some time in DC, doing the whole Beltway loop, the Pentagon. And I love the fact that you are creating a space for veterans to talk to each other. And, loving the fact too, the GI Bill changed my life. The reason I was able to study plant medicine at the collegiate level and get a master's degree in clinical herbalism is because I had access to that GI Bill and was able to really find a new passion outside of uniform that I like to joke. I went from uniform to garden dirt pretty quick.
I love that. And if you see me, I'm just taking notes because my memory is not that sharp. um, Going back to school for herbal medicine, first of all, having the money to go back and have the resources, the military, that's amazing to have. And being on my own herbal journey, I can understand the need to be at that, to have that academics at the master's level to really dig deep. Because I've done a little bit of college classes with herbalism, and it gets really into like the botany, into the science, into the chemistry of the plant. The textbooks were like really thick and very, very, very fine print. A little overwhelming.
It can be, absolutely. And I think if you are going to practice herbalism where you are really giving high doses of things to other people, you need to have that background, particularly if you're talking about contraindications with pharmaceuticals. It's my opinion that as an herbalist, if you are going to be discussing herbs in those doses with folks on lots of meds, you need to be well trained and have a collegiate level of contraindications, anatomy, physiology, and at least one semester of organic chemistry, which organic chemistry almost did me in, I'll be super honest. And yet, herbs are completely accessible to everybody. You do not have to have a higher education or a degree to bring ginger into your world. You do not have to spend years studying at the collegiate level to invite lemon balm into your life. So while, yes, I believe it's really important to have that formal education if you are going to be clinically working with others, there is no barrier to bringing plants into your everyday life. And I think that that's an important message to continue to tell people, that you don't have to have a higher degree to enjoy the benefits of herbs in your everyday life.
I love ginger. And when I would do some of my army training, I was in Washington State, and I would work have the night shift. We're doing operations. I was a warrant officer. I maintained the servers. I allowed people to talk. And I remember going to working the night shift, and having a huge mason jar of ginger tea, fresh ginger tea, and just going out of the talk, out of the tents, and just sitting there sipping under ginger tea under the stars. And it made me smile as I'm sitting there bringing a little bit of my own comfort out here to army training. It's like, it's stinky, it's tired, I'm stressful, but it was like my little zen, like just sipping that. I know that's not realistic for everybody's military training, but I was having this operation like right down the street. So very happy herb.
Well, and I think that's the story that we need to continue to talk about with plants, that we have as a species, a relationship with plants that extends far beyond what they provide us nutritionally or therapeutically. People have been using plants to heal themselves, their communities, their livestock, since plants and people have been in the mix together. And what I think is really interesting about herbalism is every area of the world has their own unique tradition of herbalism based on what grows native to that region. And when you look at like the Ayurvedic system of healing that comes to us from India, that's based on a series of books called the Vedas. There's 4 of them. And those date back to 2500 BCE, right? 2500 BCE. You go to traditional Chinese medicine, that their first official pharmacopoeia, which is, just basically your herbal textbook, dates to 400 BCE. We have thousands of years of documented human use of using plants to heal our bodies and to heal our souls.
Yeah, I spent a couple weeks in India in November, and I got to see firsthand the integrative approach to modern medicine. One of my dear friends had dengue fever. I know I'm not saying that right, from the mosquitoes. It's really bad. But seeing how the Ayurvedic doctors gave him red sandalwood to help out with the nerve pain. I was like, first of all, I never heard of red sandalwood, and I never heard of using it for nerve pain. And I have so much appreciation and love for the integrative approach, but then I also have a little bit of frustration. It's like, well, why can't we introduce a simplistic approach, into our modern healthcare? So it's why I'm really glad that you're here being an advocate for real approaches with no real agenda, except for just to help them out with their health.
Well, and I thank you for saying that, and agreed. There are moments when you just want to curl up in the back corner and be like, "Why is this happening?" Because we've got access to beautiful, beautiful plant medicine, and again, I think it's just we continue to have these conversations. That one of the things about plants is, in my opinion, you regain agency. And I think particularly for a lot of us who were in the military for so long, that somebody else was making a lot of your decisions for you for a long time, from where you went to what job you did to the color uniform you wore that day. And plants regain agency. They have no agenda. They just are there to invite you in. And learning how to bring some of them back into your life in simple ways, I think, is a beautiful expression of empowering yourself again and regaining control over your own health and over your own health choices. And they can be done in very easy and accessible ways. That plants, you don't have to wait 3 months, to get an appointment to start using the ginger that makes your heart happy. You don't need a referral. They're affordable, which I think that's one of the areas. And again, those of us in the veterans community who have access to VA, while certainly frustrating, I mean, I think we can all admit that sometimes the health system that we have is not as agile and adapt as we'd like. We still have it, right? Which is a blessing, that there are so many people in this country who do not have access to healthcare, and plants are affordable. Plants are super affordable. You've probably got 5 different healing plants in your spice drawer right now. That you mentioned how special ginger is to you. Ginger and turmeric are one of my favorite combinations to put together for any type of body pain. That both of those are beautiful at supporting reducing inflammation throughout the body. And you can get a knob of ginger for less than $2, and a high quality jar of turmeric powder, for less than 3 in any grocery store pretty much across this nation. That you can afford to do this and bring this into your life, which is also why I think it's so important to talk about these plants, because there's no cost barrier to using them in your life.
I think I saw the lights flicker, so just letting y'all know, we do have storms here in the Pacific Northwest, in the Panhandle right now. There's no natural lighting, so I'm actually in my bathroom, keeping it very authentic and who I am, with the bright light bulb. So I wanted to say, as I saw the lights flicker, I was like, oh my gosh, here we go. But it's about having the human experience. I'm glad you brought that up. I love turmeric, and I sometimes I'll get lucky and I'll go down to the Thai market and get fresh turmeric. Usually at Whole Foods, it's really expensive, but I noticed that I'm like, really? Especially when you know how cheap it is in India. I probably paid like, I don't know, 500 rupees, which was probably like 5 cents or something like that. But that's okay. But just get a thing of turmeric, and I've actually made little turmeric shots, with the pineapple, the ginger, and the turmeric, and a little bit of cayenne. But that's very heat generating kind of herb.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It's bitter and it's warming. And I think I like that you talk about that because I think if you really want to understand herbalism as well, it's important to talk about energetics, that every plant comes with a certain energetic. Where are you at on the range of hot to cold and dry to moist? And
Mm,
similarly, so do we as humans, right? We all, are you the type of person who would never dream of going to a movie theater without a sweater, because you're always going to be cold? Or are you the type of person whose mom was chasing after them saying, "Where is your coat? It's 32 degrees." We all sort of come somewhere on that range. And the beauty of herbalism is, and being an herbalist, it's not my job to match a plant to a symptom. It's my job to match a plant to a person who's experiencing a symptom. And so if you're already a really hot natured person, I'm not going to give you cayenne. That's too much heat for your individual constitution. Or even if I really want to give you cayenne, because that's the herb that I think is perfect for you, I need to make sure then that I'm combining it with other herbs that are more cooling in nature. So that's one of the things that I geek out about herbalism, because it's just as much art and listening as it is medicine and science. And being able to match herbs to people is a truly beautiful experience. But you need to understand what energetics are. And if you walk into Rite Aid, a cough syrup's a cough syrup's a cough syrup. You get to choose
yeah.
between what, cherry or grape. Like, those are your choices. Whereas an herbalist, I have a whole host of herbs in front of me that can support a cough, and then I get to do my little mad scientist, ha ha ha, and put together the right combination for you.
Yeah, because I am naturally cold. My fingers are usually cold. My hands, when I'm at work, I work almost in a server room, and I do have the heater on high, right at me. um, but back in my previous life, when I was married, my husband at the time, his hands were always hot. His body was very, very hot, and I noticed he did not actually like spicy foods. He actually naturally was hiccuping. So I'm wondering, on some level, if his body was pushing it away because he already had too much heat in his body. It's like that body's own inner intelligence.
Absolutely. No, I firmly believe that. And again, circling back to that conversation of agency,
Mhm.
learning your own body and what works for you and being mindful. Plants really invite you to settle in to your core for a second and to take a minute and to listen. And I don't know that much of our more allopathic medicine invites you to do that. Even just think about the vehicle of admission, so how it's being delivered to you. That one of my favorite ways to provide herbal healing to folks is through tea. That tea, in my opinion, is magic, and it's simple and it's accessible. But what you do with tea is you taste it, right? You smell it, you look at it, you get the aromas, the heat. It's this full sensory experience that invites you to settle into your body and feel how this is going to be. Whereas, if you're taking a capsule, and there's nothing wrong with capsules, but you bypass that body mindfulness that tea provides you. So, in my opinion, the best way to begin herbs is through tea. And then they can be as sophisticated as you want from there. I know in our previous conversation, talking about some of the different ways herbs can be used, that you can do infusions, which are tea. There's, decoctions, which you simmer. You can do things like tinctures, which is an alcohol based preparation that once you start going down the rabbit hole, there's many, many different preparations. But in my opinion, the perfect gateway is to just sit down, have a cup of tea, be mindful for 10 minutes, gift yourself 10 minutes of peace with a beautiful mug in your hand.
Hmm. I love it. I'm really glad you brought up mindfulness, and that's kind of been a theme as I know as I interview veterans, is coming back to self, coming back to knowing themselves, knowing their own body's constitution on all multiple levels, and then having that experience of connecting with the tea. Because, like you said, you just take a pill, which, like I said, we're both in agreement. There's nothing wrong with that, but it is a one size fits all kind of approach, and you don't know. It could be one aspect of that pill that maybe your body doesn't react with, and what I love about herbal medicine and connecting with to the plants, I find it to be very grounding for me. I find it to be very because I used to make herbal salves. My ex had a double spinal fusion, like I was telling you about earlier, nerve pain, PTSD, and I got all into those practices. But I made my first aid salves, I made my lip balms, tinctures, and all that. And it really connects us to our lineage and to our ancestors that were doing that kind of stuff, many, many, many years ago.
No, I completely agree and strongly believe we need to reconnect with that. One of the classes, so I live out in a very rural community where you were laughing and saying you could hop over to, the cultural store to pick up a piece of turmeric. I don't have that, right? I have, you got a Food Lion and a Walmart, and that is it, unless you're willing to drive 2 hours across the Bay Bridge into DC. So I live in a very rural area. That so one of the things that I love to talk about is planting your own, right? Find a connection if you've got a little plot of land, and you don't need a ton. You don't need 40 different herbs. You need to have a working knowledge of 5. And our grandmothers, it's like at Victory Gardens from World War II, they had a working knowledge of a few different herbs that you could use for almost all day-to-day life things. And again, I don't want to give you or your listeners the impression that I am against modern medicine. I'm not at all. I am such a firm believer that we live in this most blessed intersection of both, that we have access to life-saving vaccines and modern surgical equipment. And, we laughed earlier, just dental hygiene. Thank God for modern dental hygiene. Uh,
Yeah.
and and I think we need to remember how to use 5 herbs in our day-to-day life. And so one of the classes that I teach often is your top 5, and my top 5 herbs. And again, it varies from family to family, practitioner to practitioner. But in my opinion, if you want to be able to handle most of the day-to-day things that come to you, from tension headaches to upset stomachs to bug bites, you need chamomile, that elderberry or elder, an elder plant, right? A mint of some kind. I personally resonate with spearmint. That's my favorite mint, but there are beautiful mints. A mint, thyme, the same thing that you put in your spaghetti sauce is one of my most favorite antimicrobials and expectorants. It's amazing for the respiratory system. And then yarrow. Yarrow is my 5th top, that anything first aid and anything digestive is going to be, and well, infection, I mean, almost just anything. Let's just say yarrow can do almost just anything. But that's 5 plants will give you access to every major body system and pretty much everything that's going to come at you in a day-to-day life. Acute stuff, please go to the hospital. If you're in a car accident, Renee, I am not giving you chamomile tea. I am taking you to the hospital, right? But as part of your recovery, I'm going to give you a lot of chamomile.
I actually have mint growing up up front, and those will go crazy growing. I mean, I don't think I've watered it at all, but I'm also in Florida with humidity, and it's counted on right now with all the rain. So, and another herb I have out there is citronella, which smells heavenly. So you just rub it all over.
Yep.
So yeah, thank you for that, because I was telling you, like last week, it can be very overwhelming when you go to the store and you see all these herbs and you just want to, well, I need this, I need that, I need that, and keep it simple, have a relationship with a few plants, and knowing yourself.
Absolutely.
And I was thinking about, when I was in the military, I ended up making my own valerian root as a tincture, And I had to go more in the tincture route because of being, on the go, going here, going there. And it was a lot easier just to have that little bottle and just take a little bit, very little bit, before I went to bed, because it really helped out with my sleep. So that was definitely, definitely my number one go-to. But like I was telling you last week, I gave some valerian to one of my friends in Indiana, and he actually had trouble sleeping. His body actually reacted differently to it. So I know valerian is a little, not everybody reacts well to it. So if valerian doesn't work for somebody, what would else be good for helping them transition? Because sleep, you can't heal if you can't sleep and allow your body to the time and the space to repair itself.
Absolutely. Thank you for highlighting that, because in my opinion, the two most foundational cornerstone aspects of health are sleep and digestion. If you're not sleeping and if you're not pooping, it is really hard to be in balance and to be healthy. So no matter what a person comes to me for, if I can help them sleep and poop, I feel like maybe I've done my job as an herbalist. That those two things are so, so important to finding health. And so you're right, valerian is one of those ones that some people respond differently to it, and it has an opposite effect to them. And then there are also some people who just cannot stand the smell or taste of valerian. It's a very unique flavor, which I personally adore, but there are some people who get really turned off on it. So, two herbs that I think can play really, really nicely in sleep, depending on what type of sleep issues you're having, are passion flower and skullcap. Both of
Ooh.
those are beautiful, beautiful sedatives that are very neutral in flavor. They're kind of like a nothing burger flavor wise, so you can combine them with all sorts of different things. So, like the ginger that we talked about, or one of your favorite mints. Um, but passion flower and skullcap are two that I really, really like. Passion flower in particular for people who have what I call hamster wheel brain. I mean, it's just the same thought that keeps circling and you need an off ramp, right? Passion flower is very effective for hamster wheel brain. Whereas skullcap, I call more snow globe people that just the entire world is swirling around and it's really hard to find center. That's when I think skullcap is really, really appropriate for folks who are experiencing snow globe. But those two are my favorites for sleep. I'm trying to think of another. Lemon balm is a beautiful, gentle sleep aid. Again, I sound like a broken record, but chamomile is always helpful. Um, and all of those tincture well. So for those of you who don't know what a tincture is when you simply take plant material and you cover it with alcohol and let that infuse for about 30 days and then strain it out. And the benefit of that is it makes it incredibly shelf stable, and you can take it with you on the go wherever you're at. Because understanding, especially if you're deployed or forward in country, it's really hard to find time a cup of tea, or the tea that you made may go cold before you ever have a chance to touch it. And so tinctures make a lovely shelf stable preparation on the go. For folks who don't want to use alcohol or have an alcohol sensitivity, another really great shelf stable thing to use is vinegar. Raw apple cider vinegar extracts a lot of those phytochemicals from plants in the same way that alcohol does. It doesn't last quite as long then. Your vinegar is going to probably have 5 to 6 months versus a several years lifespan. But vinegar is a beautiful, beautiful, and incredibly cheap and accessible liquid that you can also use to make a shelf stable herbal preparation.
Because isn't that all what vanilla extract is? It's just you put the vanilla beans in alcohol.
Yeah, it's vanilla and vodka.
That's what I've actually made that. It actually tastes really good.
It's
Now,
fantastic. Mhm.
when you were talking about that, if you're a recovering alcoholic, is it something advisable to stay away from the alcohol-based tinctures, or is it not that big of a deal? I mean, I don't know.
I think that's an incredibly personal question to the person. That if you believe that alcohol is not going to be a trigger to you, rule of thumb that it just what I practice is if you're a recovering alcoholic, go. There's other ways. You can do a vinegar. You can do a glycerin extract. There are multiple other avenues for that herbal medicine. So steer clear of it.
I love all this information, and I'm jotting all these notes now, and I hope all you listeners are excited because Michaela is sharing so many valuable gems here on simplistic approaches to herbal medicine. I totally forgot about passion flower and skullcap. I have read about them in my school books, but I don't. I think I'm. I think I had skullcap, but I never had passion flower. And I do love lemon balm a lot, and it is very good for stressful environments, anxiety, coming home after work, just having, and it won't make you as sleepy as valerian. But I love valerian.
Yeah, no, and lemon balm, the other thing that I really like is if you have the ability, get a lemon balm plant. That, as you were talking about making connections to plants, lemon balm, I think it's one of the easiest plants to just make a real heart connection and a physical connection to. And, you don't even have to make a tea with it, just rub on the lemon balm leaves. That aromatherapy is incredible. Nibble a leaf that I find, and I'm glad that you mentioned stress and anxiety. The lemon balm is very a beautiful ally to folks who are looking to find alternate ways to help manage stress and anxiety. And the physical presence of the plant, I have seen do wonders for people and immediately stop panic attacks, that just rub on the plant, take a deep breath. I've witnessed the power of lemon balm.
Mm, I love it. And, all these approaches, we live in a society where everything is, we get a quick reaction. We take a pill, we resolve it, or we take a goodies powder or an Ambien or whatever. And it's a very strong shift in helping us with whatever ailments are that we have going on. But this approach really teaches us to kind of like slow down a little bit, slow down and like we've been talking about, this more simplistic approach can really help us unwind a little bit in the reconnection. And I was sitting here meditating before we went on to see what is what I was sensing in the environment of what people you would might want to see. And I talked we talked a little bit about the chronic pain, about the anxiety and the stress and unwinding the monkey mind. But I was also sensing those that are dealing a lot with chronic pain, especially a lower back pain, a debilitating pain. And Lisa, that modern medicine approach is amazing. But what are other things that they can do when they're in pain, especially with that because a lot of times it's the inflammation that's really getting us, not necessarily the injury itself, but the inflammation associated with that, and then also like nerve pain.
Mhm, mhm.
I've researched so much stuff on nerve pain for my own ex-husband. That was one issue. I read a lot about St. John's wort, but nerve pain is a really hard thing to help out with. So any advice about that? How to help out with that?
Absolutely, no. And thank you for highlighting. It is incredibly difficult, and depending on the physical trauma that has occurred around those nerves, there's not. I wish I had some like herbal silver bullet that I could just share with everybody, but I don't.
Mhm.
What I do have though is some things to try. I personally am a huge fan of hydrotherapy, that bathing. And again, getting into the bathtub with chronic pain is not an option for some. Or in my house, getting into the bathtub means then you have to like clean the bathtub, and all good feelings and stress is gone at that. So I am personally a big fan of soaking your feet. And almost all of our nerves and nerve impulses at some point in time travel through the feet and the hands. They're wonderful, wonderful maps of the body, the feet and the hands. And so by soaking your feet in magnesium, and again, Epsom salts, get a pound of Epsom salts are $5 or less. That if you're looking at chronic pain, magnesium is going to be one of the key minerals that our bodies at a cellular level cannot release tension without adequate levels of magnesium. And we don't have enough magnesium in our modern diet to satisfy that need. And so there's lots of like magnesium supplements and things you can take. In my humble opinion, we absorb magnesium through our skin far more effectively than we digest it internally. And so soaking your feet in Epsom salts and then make that tea. Make a strong quart of lemon balm tea or lavender or thyme or whatever smell sends you into a heart space. Pour that tea into the water with you. Soak your feet in the bath, turn your bathtub into a teacup and soak your feet in Epsom salts. Is a beautiful way to help release tension throughout the body. I'm glad you mentioned St. John's wort, that we talk a lot about St. John's wort today as an anxiolytic and anti-anxiety preparation, which it's very good at, and there's some incredible studies. Historically, though, St. John's wort was used in a very different way. We used it topically for nerve pain, which it's really, really good at. And so a topical application of St. John's wort can be of value to some folks as well. That's one that I do put in a lot of my salves for nerve pain. Another herb for nerve pain that I would recommend to folks for self-study is milky oat tops. So the same thing that becomes your oatmeal, right? Before it becomes oatmeal, that plant, when the tops are ripe, that they're harvested and they contain a chemical inside them that gives it sort of a white like laxative. So like when you pick dandelions, you get some of that white sappy stuff. Well, that white sappy stuff in milky oat tops is incredible at restoring and repairing the myelin sheath on your nervous system, those damaged cells. That is one of the few plants, though, I recommend as a tincture if you're going to be taking it for nerve pain, because it has to be harvested right at that milky sappy stage in order to get the nerve pain properties of that. So milky oat tops is one that I would recommend folks to self-study if you're looking at nerve pain.
Oh my, so milky oat tops, St. John's wort, and what was the other one?
So I would put any good smelling thing into your bathtub, whatever is going to soothe the nervous system, whether it's a lemon balm or a lavender or a chamomile.
I'm just writing all this stuff down, and like I said, I personally have witnessed the and it's heartbreaking seeing somebody that you care about and love, and not being able to feel their leg, or how many soldiers that I've served with that have their leg feels like it's on fire even after surgery to repair it, and are still having that burning feeling, that radiating feeling. It's so common in the military. And when you're talking about this, I almost feel like there's hope. Because a lot of times, like my ex-husband was told, you're going to be on a cane for the rest of your life, and very debilitating views of his future. And I think when a service member or anybody, when they have a little bit of faith and hope restored in them of the possibilities of feeling better, you might not be like it. We might not be in modern medicine in a place of regrowing nerves that fast, but maybe we can do something to kind of dial down that firing and that pain and that inflammation associated with it. So I feel like hopeful with you talking about this, and I never heard of milky oat tops before. So I think the nerve pain is a really big issue, and what to deal with that.
Yeah, no, I love, I'm a Pollyanna at heart. I believe absolutely there is always hope, and we can find, and again, going back to that agency, you really can be back more centered into your body. And will it ever maybe be the same? I don't know. But I do firmly believe there is always hope, and we can always find a way forward.
Oh my gosh, I'm loving this conversation. And I'm taking notes. I want to remember all this good stuff. So I said I've taken a little bit of herbal classes in Portland, but that was more at the undergraduate level, and I really enjoyed incorporate. I felt it'd be very needed in my military time, having that integrative approach, because you're either gonna slow down and connect with nature, or connect to these holistic practices, or you're gonna numb it and suppress it. So it's like, which way are you gonna go? And having that newfound hope and adjusting the mindset might be just enough, just to kind of dial down the awareness of the pain level.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I like that you keep using the word integrative, because
Mm.
again, the very best herbal medicine just by itself is not going to work. I mean, that you are a whole complete package, that maybe some dietary changes, right, are appropriate, especially if you're dealing with a lot of inflammation. Like, research some anti-inflammatory diets, that mindfulness practices. How are you dealing with stress? That stress and inflammation are completely intertwined. It's going to be very hard to get your inflammation under control if you are completely stressed out, and are still working on stress reduction techniques. That it's a whole package. It's a whole package. And I thank you for continuing to talk about this integrative approach, because
Yeah.
altogether it's going to create more than at any one single venue.
It's a common thing that I'm noticing interviewing veterans that are in this holistic arena, because when you say holistic, it has to be integration of modern medicine and ancient techniques or holistic techniques. It has to be awareness of the mind, body, and spirit connection, that everything is connected in the body and not treating as compartmentalized, and then understanding one's constitution, because you can't just have this cookie cutter approach. And unfortunately, I don't think a lot of doctors have a lot of time. And I am hopeful, and I have a vision for more integration, bringing folks like you, like in hospitals, and something, just a little integrative herbal prescription. And I want to put you on a spot a little bit. And if you want to bypass the conversation, we can totally. Um,
So now I'm
um,
curious. All right, I'm leaning in. What you got?
we talked about this last week, and we talked about TBC and marijuana, and a lot of approaches that you see a lot of folks using um, to work on their pain levels. And I wanted, because you brought up some good points last week that I thought were very value added to the audience. Not necessarily that it's a bad thing, but some things for people to be aware of when they're using that approach into their wellness.
Okay. No, absolutely. I do not use CBD products in my practice. I have seen amazing studies and research. Certainly at childhood epilepsy, there's some incredible research about CBD being so amazing in epileptic seizures. That, in my opinion, though, and I feel this way about a lot of different things, that as soon as it becomes really profitable, there's a whole lot of interest. And I believe strongly, when we're talking about CBD, it needs to be a consumer and buyer beware. That there are a lot of snake oil salesmen out there right now. And the field itself is still new, and the regulations are sort of the wild west. They're evolving, but it's sort of the wild west. There are different universities. So I went to the University of Maryland of Integrative Health, which is where I got my master's degree, and they had just started a CBD post-baccalaureate certification, because we need to have really well trained, smart herbalists now really getting into the CBD world. Um, so it is an evolving space. I know a lot of people who topically have experienced great relief of pain with CBD products. I just really caution folks to make sure you know your sources and who your practitioner is. That, because there's a lot of people right now that are just in it for the almighty dollar. And so be careful.
Mhm. I appreciate your candid comments about that. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I was thinking about it in the back of my head, because that is it's very trendy right now, and I do see it a lot on social media. And it goes back to knowing your own body's constitution and what is in line with it, and then also who's selling you that and what is their intention. um that's, I mean, and that's the reality of it, to be really aware, and to also know somebody who's really educated in that field.
Well, and that's the cold hard math of it. And it's an incredible, powerful plant, but I'll be honest with you and your listeners. And then it makes my skin crawl when I see, CBD lip balm. It's like, guys, this is an amazing plant. What are we doing to it? We're making it trendy and cute. So just beware. And there is, I think, folks on the horizon that are coming that are going to be very, very well trained. But anytime it's really profitable, you need to check your sources. And a lot of the folks that I see that are CBD distributors have received their training from the companies whose products they're distributing. Um, and it's similar to essential oils. You want to talk about controversial topics? Oh my goodness. Okay, essential oils. That's another. And I am not a trained aromatherapist, right? I'm an herbalist, but similar times that if your training is coming from the company whose product you're distributing, in my opinion, there's not quite enough daylight there. That I believe we need to have some third party independent training organizations that are training up our holistic health people.
Yes. As you're talking, I was like, oh, I got peppermint right here. um, but I use it in the morning to kind of wake me up. I even do my diffuser.
Yeah,
uh,
and I think essential oils are wonderful, wonderful things. But they talk about another very powerful plant medicine. So, I don't know if your listeners are aware that it takes 40 pounds, 40 pounds of rose petals, right, to distill down to a quarter-ounce bottle. I mean, that's a swarthy 3-year-old worth of rose petals that are distilling down to this quarter-ounce bottle. And when I see things, particularly on Pinterest, and I love Pinterest, but not for herbal advice, that are saying, put 5 drops of rose and 10 drops of lemon and stuff. It's like the amount of plant material that is required to produce that is enormous. Like, just go slice a lemon, okay? Go get a lemon. That go outside and grab a few rose petals off your rose. That, just again, be aware of the power of that plant and the amount of environmental footprint that contains.
oh my, yeah, and rose oil is not cheap either. So I can see a lot of people breaking the bank, especially like you said, these companies who are selling essential oils that are trained by their own company and reeling you into buy. The agenda is the bottom line and is bringing in money. And here you're giving out all this free advice, simple, real applications. I love my lemons. I love my lime. um, I wanted to shift gears here because I haven't mentioned or talked about your business. I was looking on your website. I saw the one tea. It was like dragon something. And it just like pulls me in to like look at. I love the names of it. So you got your degree in herbal medicine, and now I think you have a whole herbal website on these beautiful tea blends. I love the names and the colors and I even saw you have your own salves and your own lip balm too in there.
I do. Yes, I do. That, again, once you get bit by the herbal bug, it's hard to stop, in my opinion. You start, going further. And yes, we have a small business here on the Eastern Shore of Maryland. If anybody's ever out this way, please do come pop by the shop. And again, the tea blends, that's, as an herbalist, I feel so lucky that I get to work with these beautiful plants, because it's almost like painting a picture. You get to go in so many different directions and use all of these beautiful, beautiful ingredients. And so I have a lot of fun putting my tea blends together and coming up with creative names. So yeah, it's a fun space to be, and my job smells really good. I have a great smelling job.
So I can imagine you got people coming in for two people coming in with the exact same ailment, and you might say, okay, no, it's recommended you have this tea, but no, not for you. This would be more in line with you based off who they are as a person.
Completely. No, in the same way that there are no two individuals alike, no two herbal protocols are going to be the same, because they are
Mhm.
completely individually matched, which I think circles back a little bit to that comment you were making earlier with time. And so many of our amazing health practitioners who are time crunched. You have 10 to 15 minutes, right, to see a person. As an herbalist, I need more time, because I need to know what is the right herb for you. That I have myriad plants to choose from, but what is the plant that is going to resonate best for you?
Yes, and I'm seeing it a lot with these holistic avenues that are people going, especially I have board certified as a health and wellness coach, and you as an herbalist, and The doctors, they're the subject matter experts, and they're the ones that can, prognose you, treat you, diagnose you, give you medicine and all that, and that short window. But when you're sitting with people like, a wellness coach or an herbalist, we can kind of take the time, that hour or so, to really unpack that person's life, their social conditioning, their belief systems, any issues that they're going with, their constitution, and kind of making a custom approach to them. So it's a really beautiful blend of both worlds, and giving somebody that space.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what is the name of your business?
It's the Little Green Witch Apothecary is the name of the business, which my kids came up with that name because initially when I got into herbalism, I am a 2 feet into the deep end kind of human, and I approach everything in a big way. So it's like I'm not just going to have a garden; I'm going to have a quarter acre of a garden, and we're going to homestead. And I was tending the apothecary garden, and my son, who was very young at the time, was just like, "Mom, you're like a little green witch," and the name stuck, and I love the name, and I resonate with the name because I do really believe plants are magic. They provide us so much more than just nutrition and therapy. They soothe the soul.
Yeah, I think I told you last week when I was talking to you, I did a meditation on a jade plant.
Mhm.
A lady broke off a jade plant and took me in this whole guided imagery of connecting to the plants and why I was called to it. But you can do that with any plant. What message do you have for me? And that just holding the leaf, like mint, for example, holding the leaf, gently rubbing the texture, smelling it, maybe quieting your mind and listening to what that plant, the energetics of that plant, what it has for you. So mindfulness, that's a very mindfulness approach. And it really doesn't, you can do with a mint leaf, maybe, I don't know, 5 minutes. You
Absolutely.
know?
Absolutely. I would also, if folks are interested in finding out what that connection feels like, try it with rosemary as well. Rosemary is such a beautiful, aromatic, powerful, resonating plant that just grab a sprig of rosemary and go find a quiet space to sit down and hang out with it. Rosemary is one of my favorites. Mhm.
Yes, I love it. I had rosemary out there, but didn't do too well. Maybe my heartbeat, I don't know. Um this is this was a great conversation. And you shared out so many real applications, things that people could take home today and apply into their life. So I really appreciate you sharing your education freely, with the veteran community. And I definitely want to check out your website because you do have some magical herbal blends. I do have a little bit with buying tea blends. um but seeing which one, because there was one in there that had like goji berries, and I think that was like speaking to me. It might have been the dragon one.
It was, yeah. Well, and thank you for providing this space for us and for your listeners and for people just seeking community as veterans that we all have had a unique experience. And thank you for providing a space for us to have this conversation.
You're welcome. I love it. I'm so passionate about this. Any final herbal plant integrative health, or any last parting words, or even about your business that you would like to share with the veterans that are watching today?
Um, just begin, check out your spice cabinet and just begin. It is not secretive. It does not require higher education. It just requires a little bit of water, a little bit of time, and some, creative effort. Just start. Pick one plant and start.
Hmm, I love it. Thank you so much for being here. Don't get off the phone yet. We're just going to end the call. I wish everybody a great day. Bye.